Here we're going to introduce you to our new change success model, based on Dr. Chris Mason's work launched in 2014, with his research and subsequent model that we're going to share with you. It's all about trying to come up with a statistically proven science-based model to help us drive change. We know the literature says that typically change initiatives fail 70% of the time. So Chris's work was all about trying to change that number and give you a practical tool as a consequence to help you drive change success. So this is the first video, and what we want to share with you is the core of that research, which we now know 3 things really drive change success. The ability to be ready for change, which typically I think historically we've not spent much time on. There's been a big assumption that we know we are ready and we just drive into change and we'll work it out as we go. The need to have the capability to be able to deliver that change ultimately, which again I think is another one that's been neglected. And then having the belief, so having the mindset, the psychology, the hearts and minds of people, which I think probably typically is where a lot of change success tends to focus on. Now there are 10 levers that surround those 3 core elements, and we are going to talk about them in the second video. But here what we want to do is just show how we can just use this baseline core of the change success model just to start to think about where we are in the context of change and how we can use that to start to plan forward. So think about that RCB model. What you need to do is really ask yourself, in terms of being ready for the change we want to implement, how ready are we on a score out of 10? Do we have all the things we need? Do we have a plan? All the things that you would think about in terms of being ready for change. Do people understand what we're trying to do? And just give yourself a really honest score out of 10 in terms of readiness. And then think about capability in terms of as an organisation, but also as individuals within the organisation. How capable are we of delivering this change? Again, give yourself a score out of 10 on that. And then finally, in terms of the beliefs, and in terms of how strong is the belief amongst us as a group of people and individually that we can actually achieve what we want to achieve in terms of change. So again, just give yourself a score out of 10 for that. So on the example here, you see what I've done here. I said here, in terms of readiness, maybe we're half ready, 5 out of 10. That wouldn't be an untypical situation. And in capability, we kind of think that we're capable of doing the things we need to do. So maybe we're at 8 out of 10. And in terms of belief, we're fairly confident people. So maybe we've scored ourselves 7 out of 10. But even that, you can see there that would only give you a score when you times them together of 28% success rate out of a possible 100% success rate in change. Typically, is kind of in line with where most people sit. So you can see how easy it is to fall way below the requirement for change success. So what we need to do with this simple model here is start to look at those numbers again. Just ask yourself, how could we get that readiness up from 5 to 10? What could we do in the organizations to be more ready or even completely ready to go? In terms of our capability, how do we just make sure we hold that capability? So even in this model, you don't need to necessarily shift that capability, but actually, can we just get a bit more self-belief in the people to really, believe we can achieve this? And just by going from that 10 to 8 to 8, you can suddenly see how suddenly the change success number really starts to accelerate up to 64% in this example. But when you start to really think about how you can ratchet those numbers up, then you have the basis of a simplistic level of a change success plan. So key to change success, make sure you're ready, ensure you have the capability organisationally and at individual level to deliver that change, and work on the beliefs of the individuals involved so that they'll see it through. Change success.